You're probably sitting there wondering whether that next subwoofer you're eyeballing will actually move the room the way you need it to, or if you'll end up with a lot of rattling and a dent in your budget. The biggest fear is spending good money on a monster that either won't blend with your existing system or ends up being a headache to tame. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's dig into what makes the BNC 21-inch Neodymium Subwoofer a realistic option, and where it might fall short of the hype. First off, the headline number's 21 inches, neodymium magnet, 3400 watts peak sound like a concert hall beast. In real life, those figures translate into a driver that can push a lot of air, but only if your amp can actually feed it. Most home theater enthusiasts run amplifiers in the 300-500 watt RMS range, so you'll be feeding the sub a fraction of its peak capability. That isn't a flaw, it just means you won't be extracting the full explosive potential unless you pair it with a high-power, low-impedance amp designed for professional subwoofer use. If you're building a dedicated home theater room or a small live music venue, the 21-inch cone with its waterproof reinforced treatment can be a genuine asset. The cone's water-resistant coating helps keep the diaphragm stable even if you push it hard for long passages. Think of a 30-minute action movie marathon where low-frequency effects stay tight and don't start to mush. In a home theater setting, the extra Excursion the driver offers gives you that visceral thump during explosions without the bass feeling detached or flabby. On the other side of the coin, the massive size and power handling make this unit a bit of a heavyweight for typical living room setups. A 21-inch sub will need a substantial enclosure, usually at least 10 cubic feet, to perform optimally. If you're trying to squeeze it into a standard bookshelf or a compact corner box, you'll likely end up with excessive port noise or a boomy, uncontrolled bottom end. So, if you live in an apartment or have limited floor space, this isn't the sub you want to wrestle into a tiny cabinet. One practical strength that isn't shouted about in the spec sheet is the 4.5-inch aluminum voice coil. Aluminum has a higher thermal conductivity than copper, meaning it can dissipate heat more efficiently when you drive the sub hard. In everyday use, that translates to a driver that stays cooler during long, bass-heavy tracks and is less prone to thermal compression. I've heard from a few DIY builders who ran the sub for extended DJ sets, and they noted the driver didn't sag or lose punch mid-set, something that can be a real annoyance with cheaper cones. The neodymium magnet is another subtle win. It's lighter than a traditional ferrite magnet, which reduces the overall mass of the moving assembly. The lighter moving mass allows for quicker transient response, so you'll hear the difference between a deep rumble and a sharp bass hit more clearly. In a home theater scenario, that means the low end feels tighter during rapid on-screen action, like a car chase where the bass needs to accelerate and decelerate with the visual cues. Now, let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. The sub's 8 ohm impedance is friendly to most amplifiers, but the 3400 watt peak rating can be misleading. Peak power isn't what you'll be running continuously, it's the absolute maximum the driver can survive in short bursts. If you push a modest amp to its limits, the driver will still perform well, but you won't be tapping the advertised power ceiling. This can create a mismatch where the sub feels underdriven unless you specifically buy a high-power amp that matches its RMS capabilities. Another practical consideration is wiring and crossover integration. The sub doesn't come with an internal crossover, so you'll need an external unit or an amp with built-in low-pass filtering to shape the frequency roll-off. For someone who's not comfortable fiddling with crossover points, that extra step could add a layer of complexity. The good news is most modern AV receivers include a subwoofer level and crossover setting, but you'll still have to fine-tune the phase and level to avoid phase cancellation with your main speakers. Who should hit the add to cart button? If you're a home theater enthusiast with a room big enough to accommodate a properly sized enclosure, and you have or plan to get a capable sub-amp that can deliver several hundred watts RMS, this BNC driver can give you that cinema-level impact without needing a full-blown line array. It's also a solid choice for small venues that need a reliable low-frequency source without investing in a rack of multiple subs. DIY builders who enjoy customizing enclosure volume and port tuning will appreciate the flexibility the driver offers. Who should skip it? If you're looking for a plug-and-play sub that fits in a small cabinet, or if you're on a tight budget and can't justify a high-power amp, you'll likely be better served by a smaller 12-inch or 15-inch sub that matches a more modest enclosure.